All right, so I'm Lynn Christensen. Like he said, I graduated in 2014, and I now run my own photography business called Pernille Photography. So I specialize mostly in weddings, but I also do proposals, events, and portraits. I first got started in photography way back in high school, actually. I went to Communications High School in Wall, and it was a theme-based school, so I got to take a bunch of photo classes, and that's where I learned I really love photography, and I've just stuck with it ever since. So when it came time to apply for colleges, I knew I wanted to major in photography, and I also decided to minor in business, which turned out to be a really great decision. When you run your own business, you spend probably only 20% of your time actually taking pictures, and the other 80% is all the business stuff. So contracts, invoices, client relationships, filing taxes, all that stuff. I love this little chart that I found online. It shows how much time we actually spend taking pictures, and all of the rest of the time is all that businessy stuff. Yeah. So, yep, how people think photographers spend their time. So, taking pictures and then having fun, right? Yeah. But how we really spend our time is taking pictures, social media, blogging, meetings, networking, marketing, editing, production, learning new techniques, and then other computer tasks.
Can I make a comment in terms of the editing? Very often when you quote a price to somebody or talk to people, the total figure at the other end, we spend more time editing than actually photographing. You need to point that out to people.
Absolutely, yeah, you're right. So if I shoot a wedding that's like, say, 8 hours, it'll take me weeks and weeks to actually edit that. So I've started actually doing time tracking. So I have this program on my computer that tracks how long I actually edit, because I'm curious, how many hours do I actually spend editing that wedding? But you're right. And definitely make it clear to your clients, like, just so you know, it takes a long time to actually edit the photos. So I started my LLC in 2013. I was actually taking this exact class, commercial photography, and all of the photographers we were hearing from and the studio visits we went on really solidified it in my mind that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a commercial photographer and start my own business. So that April, I decided I didn't want to wait any longer, and I officially started my LLC. So when I first got interested in photography, I actually was mostly interested in fashion photography. But then when I shot my first wedding in 2011, something clicked. I realized this was the perfect niche for me. So I realized that wedding photography combines a lot of the different areas that I love about photography. So there's a big still life component when you're photographing details. There's a huge photojournalistic aspect when you're capturing candids and all the emotions. And there actually is a pretty big fashion and beauty component. So when you're photographing the bride and the groom and the bridal party. So weddings is what I just decided to specialize in. So I'll pass out a little sample album so you can see some work. It's a little heavy. And then I'll give you kind of a run through of what a typical wedding day looks like. So my day usually starts with the getting ready portion of the day. So this usually starts with the bride getting her hair and makeup done, getting her dress on. And it's also really important to capture any details that are in the room. So her bouquet, her shoes, her ring, the invitation. And then the same thing goes for over at the groom's location. So tie, cufflinks, shoes, watch, cologne. And then before we head over to the ceremony location, I like to get just a solo portrait of the bride and the groom separately while they're perfectly put together, the hair's all nice, the dress is neat, no wrinkles, just while they're in perfect condition. So the most high pressure part of the day is definitely the ceremony, because you can't instruct the couple, you can't pause anything, you can't repeat anything, you just have to be ready to go. So I always set up my camera settings, test everything before the ceremony starts. I like to shoot with a mix of long and wide shots. So my second shooter and I will usually coordinate what lenses we're using so we get a nice mix. And we also coordinate what parts of the room we're in so that we can get a variety of angles. And it's also really important to get reaction shots, especially the groom when the bride is walking down the aisle.
Is he happy or not?
Caption that yourself.
That's the best part about photos.
Yes, exactly.
We've all been an ugly cry.
It's the best. I love it when grooms cry. Brides love that.
Yep.
So then after the ceremony is usually when we take portraits of the bride and the groom and the bridal party and the family. It's my favorite part of the day.
That looks hazardous, the one before.
I know, right?
Is that Cooper River?
It's Camden County Boathouse.
Yeah, no, that's on the Cooper
Yeah,
River.
yeah.
Extra road there.
Yep. It was pretty stable, but they were an adventurous couple. I was like, okay. They were running around, and I was like, oh, please walk
That gets
slowly.
pretty precarious on a weekday.
Yes. So then next up is cocktail hour, which is mostly just getting pictures of the guests, candid shots, group shots, and then detail shots, maybe pictures of the food. And then before the reception is when I like to go in and capture any detail. So a general rule of thumb when capturing details is if they spent time or money on it, you have to capture it. And the more time or money they spend on it, the more important it is to capture it. So if there's anything handmade, make sure you take pictures of it. And then I also like to go into the reception hall and get pictures of centerpieces, menus, anything before it's all untouched. So then the first part of the reception is usually the first dance, followed by the parent dances, so mother, son, father, daughter. And then the toasts and the speeches, and again, reaction shots are always important to get. And then the rest of the night is pretty fun. It's a lot more low pressure. Your only job is really to get dancing pictures, candids, just capture the energy of the reception.
Those headphones have rhinestones on them?
Yes, yes, I've been noticing that for like little kids. They have like sound canceling headphones,
Yeah.
but they're fancy because it's a wedding. And yes, the reception is a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of fun things when you shoot weddings, especially the later the night gets and the drunker people get.
Those drunk uncles.
Yep. Oh my God, so many drunk uncles. So the last big event of the reception is usually the cake cutting, and then sometimes there's a bouquet toss or garter toss. And then sometimes there's a big send-off, so sometimes there's a fireworks show or sparkler exit. So any questions about the wedding part? Any questions on anything so far? Yeah?
Because I plan to do this as well because
Yeah.
I've done some already.
Yeah.
How much do you charge?
So my most popular package is $3,700.
Okay, because that's how much, when I interned, that's
Yeah.
how much he charged.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
to that effect. Everyone's like, he's too expensive.
Yeah, it's an expensive
worth it.
industry,
It's
yes.
worth it.
But like he said, there's so much that goes into it. And if you pay for a cheap photographer, you get what you pay for. So if you pay for someone who doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't have experience, doesn't have pro equipment, you'll see it in the photos. And you don't want to risk that on a wedding day. So it is expensive, but it's an expensive career. So
Does
that
that
include
include
first-
insurance do you carry?
what was that?
Insurance.
Yes, I have.
What happens if you screw up?
Yes, so I have general liability insurance, which is something I highly recommend, and also most venues require that anyone that comes into the building has it. So that's, let's say you left your bag somewhere and someone tripped over it, that would cover their medical expenses or legal expenses. And I'm also an LLC, limited liability corporation or company, which I highly recommend for any business. Cover yourself. So basically what an LLC does is it separates you as a person and it creates your business as a separate entity. So if anything were to happen and you got sued and you had to pay money, they can only go after your business assets, not you as a person. So if they went after you as a person, they could garnish your wages, take your house, your car, do whatever they have to do to get that money. So yes.
So your price,
sorry, go ahead.
the general one, does that include for a second shooter?
Yes, so my most popular package is 8 hours, 2 photographers. That's like the most standard popular
and
package.
What kind of like lighting equipment do you bring?
Yeah, so I have, my favorite thing to use is speed lights. So I have SP 700s, which go on the camera. You can bounce it, you can use off-camera flash. They're really versatile, yep.
So you also bring a stand for your flash?
Yep, I also shoot video, so I have some video lights and stands for that. But yep, so in terms of wedding lighting, 2 things super important in low light. I have a full frame camera, I have D750s, which are really good in low light. They're full frame, really great sensors. So I can shoot at 6400 ISO with no grain. It's beautiful. And then my lenses have wide aperture, so 1.4. Almost everything I shoot is up there in like 1.4 to that range. And then that with flash, and you're good. Yep. Any other questions about weddings or anything so far? Okay. So weddings typically happen mostly in spring and fall. Recently, I've been noticing a lot more happen in the fall. So I highly recommend shooting other things like events and portraits and products so that you can kind of supplement your income the rest of the year. So when you're not shooting weddings in the winter, it's a really good idea to shoot things like portraits. So for instance, in November and December, portraits are really popular for gifts and for Christmas cards. So it's a good way to supplement your income in those slow months. So when I'm not shooting weddings, I shoot a bunch of bar mitzvahs, sweet 16s, communions, baptisms. And then everything that comes before the wedding, so bridal showers, rehearsal dinners, bachelorette parties. And I also shoot the proposal itself.
Is everything on site, or do you also have a studio?
I do have a studio. I think that's the next slide. It's in a couple of slides, yeah. But mostly on location. I live in Jersey City, so I also shoot a bunch of events in New York City, so corporate events, award shows, fundraisers, and I've even been able to shoot some celebrities like Meryl Streep. And yep, so like I said, I do have a little studio in my condo, so like half of the living area is like my dedicated studio, so I shoot things like headshots, professional portraiture, and baby photos. So you definitely can make a good living being a commercial photographer, but I won't lie, it's not instant. It's not like overnight you're gonna become successful and be able to do this full time. There's a really great book called The Hockey Stick Principles, which talks about how most successful businesses follow this sort of growth curve. And they really emphasize in the early years, they call it the tinkering stage. So that for us, that would be things like getting your portfolio together, slowly spreading word of mouth, raising your prices eventually. And then as your reputation grows, your prices raise, you get more clients, that's when you see that growth. So this is actually my curve. I didn't include those first couple years when I only shot a little jobs here and there, but it actually follows almost the exact same curve. So I definitely agree with the book. So a big reason that my business was able to grow the way it did is through word of mouth. I can't say enough great things about word of mouth. So let's say the first year you shoot weddings, you only shoot 3. But those 3, you treat those 3 couples amazingly, great client experience, they're totally happy with their work. If they just tell 2 friends, refer 2 friends to you, and then that couple does the same, it grows exponentially. So let's say you shoot only 3 weddings in your first year. After 4 seasons, you can shoot 24 weddings without doing any paid advertising. So really important to treat your clients well and generate good word of mouth. So are any of you guys considering starting your own photography businesses? I know you said you are. Anybody else? Maybe? Yeah? So these are some things you can do now if you want to get started. So experience and portfolio are huge. So the first thing someone looks at when deciding if they want to book you, other than maybe pricing, is your work. So your quality of work, your style. So it's really important to build up a portfolio any way you can. So whether that's shooting for family and friends, maybe discounting your prices to begin with just to get some work. Styled shoots are also a really great way to build up your portfolio. Do you guys know what that is? Styled shoot? It's when a bunch of vendors come together and donate their products and services and kind of create like a mock wedding so that you all can get photos for your portfolio. So for instance, a florist would donate flowers, a baker would donate a cake, wedding dress shop would donate the dress, and then you, the photographer, donate the photos. Another really great way is second shooting. So like I said, most weddings have 2 photographers nowadays. That's really common. So by second shooting, you can get a ton of experience without the pressure of having to book that job yourself. And I'm actually doing teaching a free webinar all about second shooting. So tips and guidelines for how to second shoot, how to find second shooting jobs, and how it can actually be a really good side income. So if you guys want to sign up for it, you can put your email here and I'll email you when registration opens. And then another great way is internships. So I had 2 internships in college, which were amazing. So if there's an idol or someone working in the industry that you want to work in, just reach out to them, see if they need an intern. And even if they're not able to take you on full-time as an intern, maybe you can just shadow them on a few jobs here and there just to get a taste of what it's like. And then something I also recommend you do sooner rather than later is building up your equipment gradually. So like I said, I got interested in photography many years ago, so I was able to slowly build up my equipment. So every birthday, holiday, graduation, I wished for cameras and lenses. So it wasn't just like the day I decided to start my business, I had to go out and buy everything. So the earlier you gradually build it up, the better. And I also recommend when you upgrade your equipment to sell your old equipment so you can make back a little bit of money. I also recommend making the most of your years here in college. So customizing your curriculum to what you're interested in. So I know that there's those core classes you have to take for your major, but when it comes to picking electives, consider taking something outside your major that might be useful or relevant in your business later on. Even if you don't think you want to start your own business, if you want to work, at a normal job at a company, this will still be a great benefit to you because it'll give you a wider area of expertise, it'll boost your resume, and it'll set you apart from others when you're applying for jobs. So these are my favorite business classes: entrepreneurial mindset, intro to marketing, business decision making, and services marketing. So those 2 in the middle were actually part of the business minor that I took. But the top one was just a pure elective that I decided to take. And I'm actually really sad. They only started that program my last year here, so I only could take that 1 class. But now they have like a whole program. I think you might even be able to minor in entrepreneurship. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I highly recommend that. And it also works really well for a creative major, because that first class was a lot about innovation, being creative, thinking outside of the box, coming up with new ideas. So I really highly recommend that one. And then the bottom one was actually services marketing. Was only offered to business majors, but I thought it sounded perfectly relevant to my business, so I just asked my advisor and professor if I could take it, and they were more than happy to let me. So the wider your skill set is, the more well-rounded you can be, the better off you'll be in business, because the less services you'll have to hire out. So for instance, if you've taken graphic design classes and you're good at that, you won't have to hire out someone to make your logo, business cards, marketing materials. You might want to take some classes on video if you think you might want to add that to your services. That's also really helpful to know in business. You might want to take some web design classes so you know how to build your own website or blog. And then more business classes like maybe accounting so you can do your own bookkeeping and taxes. So final steps when you think you're ready to start your business, if that's what you want to do. So these are the steps that you would take to legitimize your business and make it legal and official. So the first step would be forming an LLC, like I said, super important. The next would be creating a business bank account. So it's really important that your business income and expenses are separate from you as a person. And then also writing contracts, making sure you stay out of trouble. And then setting up a bookkeeping system and filing your taxes. And I actually have a course that goes through all of that stuff. My assistant Danny in the back actually took it. And you can see that if you're interested at lynnpernille.com/course. And that's it. I'm on all social media. I'm Lynn Pernille, and that's my photography website and education website. Any questions on anything I went over?
Probably later on do a question and answer.
Smart.
You know.
Okay, sounds good.